one of the Senate's biggest fiscal hawks, Senator Rand Paul from the state of Kentucky. Sir, it's great to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, so the Senate parliamentarian struck down Nancy Pelosi's $100 million train extension in San Francisco. Biden has agreed to lower the cutoff for the stimulus checks down to around $75,000 for the individual. It's still a massive bill, though, at a time when a lot of people think we should just be reopening and getting back to work. What do you think?
You know, I have people on the phone today in Kentucky who had ice damage and flooding damage, and they think the government through emergencies ought to be involved. And I said, well, the government's too busy giving people who make a couple making 150 grand who didn't lose their jobs getting a check. Yeah. And meanwhile, I have to tell these poor cities and counties in Kentucky that are flooded, oh, well, we don't have any money for flooding, but we sure have money to give to people who didn't lose their job. It makes no sense at all. Democrats are passing out money to people who did not lose their job and who are not hurting. Meanwhile, when people are in the middle of a disaster and lose their electricity or in shelters, government says, oh, too bad, we don't have any money. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, and I think Democrats kind of write this off as, there's going to be some people, you can't get it right every time. But, me personally, I know a lot of people that didn't miss a day of work that are just looking forward to these checks. I mean, I think it's a much bigger problem than Democrats say it is.
Two of my kids have graduated from college. They're on their own. We're proud of them. They're making money, but they're not rich. But they don't need a check from government. They didn't lose their job. My father-in-law is 89 years old. He's a great retired veteran, has a military pension and Social Security. He'll put it in the bank or he'll buy stocks with it. Right. He doesn't pay. His house is paid off. He's not rich either, but he doesn't need a check. He's like, he asked me, why don't you give it to the waitress or the person who works at a hotel that lost their job?
Absolutely.
Or the person that works on a cruise ship, but why are you giving it to people who don't need it? And it's just really this egg-headed notion that we can grow money on trees, shake the money tree and pass it out. But they're doing crazy stuff with it, too. There's $10 million in there to study Native American languages. There's $750 million in there for Native American housing. I mean, really? That has nothing to do with COVID. There's $300 billion in there to bail out New York and California and Illinois and all these profligate liberal states that spend money like crazy.
Yeah.
So there's nothing good coming out of this. It's a terrible bill, and not one Republican is going to vote for it.
And it passes still, though, right? Not one Republican votes for it. It still passes, right?
I don't know. Well, it probably. My buddy Ron Johnson from Wisconsin's making them read the whole thing as we speak. I don't know if it started yet. He's going to make them read every word. That could go on for 24 hours, making him read every word. And I'm proud of him for standing up and saying, look, we're just not going to take this lying down. We should fight back.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that idea, too. Texas and Mississippi, talking about COVID here, are reopening. Biden today called it Neanderthal thinking. He said, follow the science. Sir, you're a doctor. Who do you think is right on this and why?
Well, I would say it would take a Neanderthal to know a Neanderthal, so maybe Biden has some knowledge we don't know. But no, it's about time. It's long past time that we open. The schools should have been open 6 months ago. Yeah. We have private schools in Louisville that never went to, they were always in person the whole time and have never had a problem, never had a surge. If you look at the daily incidence of COVID, it's dropping almost straight downwards. A doctor in the Wall Street Journal last week said it's gone by April. I think he may be right. We have 75 million people have been vaccinated. We got another 30 million people who've had it naturally. There's probably another 10 or 15 million people who had it and don't know they had it. We're rapidly developing enough immunity that this thing is going to go away. We should be celebrating, and the people who have been vaccinated or have had it should be throwing their masks away or putting them in a pile and burning their masks and telling Dr. Fauci to go fly a kite. We can make our own decisions in a free country.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. We're currently $28 trillion in debt. This bill goes through. I guess that'll bring it up to about 30. Does this ever get addressed? I mean, I look at this and it's just an astounding amount of money. Does this ever get addressed, or does it just blow up in our face one day?
This is a question I ask smart people, the people who have been very successful managing money in our nation's monetary centers. I say, when does it end, and how does it end, and what kind of warning can you give me so I can prepare my family for this? There is no exact thing they tell me other than that at some point interest rates will rise as people have less trust of the value of the money or the value of our debt. But we do have a printing press. And the thing is we've been able to survive a long time in the printing press because other countries' currencies are worse. Think about it. If you live in Venezuela and have money, would you want it in their currency or our currency?
Right.
As many problems as we have, we're about 1,000,000 times better than Venezuela or Zimbabwe or these other countries. So some people refer to it as the cleanest shirt in a closet full of dirty shirts.
Right.
The American currency is that cleanest of dirtiest shirts. And so it's hard to tell when it happens, but more and more people, I hear more and more people telling me, oh, I'm buying stock, I'm speculating. Are you buying GameStop and all these speculation? When everybody's speculating and everybody's buying stock, that's the time you start to worry, maybe it's overbid and maybe there's going to be a reversal or a crash.
Yeah.
That's what I.
Absolutely. And to be fair, and I want to be fair here, Republicans, a lot of them are just as bad. I mean, Donald Trump's presidency spent a lot of money, added a lot to the debt. So you're one of very few. You have a very, very small faction of people that think like you in Congress. And that's a big problem, isn't it?
$4 trillion was spent last year, largely with Republican approval. Another $2 trillion now, mostly Democrat. I haven't really been for any of it. I've been for opening the economy. I've been trying to weather the storm by vaccination and using some common sense precautions. But no, the question is, where did that $6 trillion go? A lot of it went into the stock market. It was printed up. It's not real wealth. It's sort of like the emperor has no clothes. We really don't have money to give you. We give you a false sense of money by giving it to you, and it has value until one day it doesn't have value. And whenever this happens, in 1929, it happened because you had this credit expansion during the 20s, and then there was reversal. That's my fear, is we're having this massive stock bubble now. Everything's going through the roof, and everybody thinks it's easy money. That's the time when there's a correction, when you least expect it. If that happens, a lot of people are going to hurt in a downturn.
Yeah. Today you tweeted out, Audit the Fed is a widely supported grassroots movement that aims to shake up the Washington establishment's spending addiction. It is by far time Congress passes this legislation to hold the Federal Reserve accountable to the people's representatives. Now, a lot of people out there can't really wrap their heads around what the Federal Reserve is. It's tough for me to understand a lot of times, too, and why exactly it matters. Explain this to us.
It's a way of printing up money to buy our debt. So when we borrow money, we actually borrow money. We print up things called treasury bills and we sell them. In the old days, you could think of it this way. When you were a kid or during World War II, you buy a war bond to support, and you paid, $1, but it was worth $25 25 years from now through interest. And that's buying of debt by the private public. What the Federal Reserve is a bank created by the government that then basically prints up money or a computer entry to buy a treasury bill, and then they have it and they say, oh, we have $4 trillion worth of assets. But what they have is a stack of paper that's only redeemable by taxing another generation. But it's worse than that. During the downturn in 2008, 2009, they began buying mortgages. So the Federal Reserve owns mortgages. They even own bad car loans. They own all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
But they have propped the economy up by buying these things. So it's artificially, once again, stimulated things like the stock market and home sales. But there is a day of reckoning that's coming, and auditing the Fed is the first step to trying to figure out what they've done so we can make the correction less harsh when it finally comes to our country.
Senator Rand Paul from the great state of Kentucky, one of my favorites to follow in the Senate. Sir, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi, Emma Reckenberg here. If you like this video, there's a whole lot more to see on Newsmax TV. You can watch for free right here on our YouTube live stream and be the first one here each time our experts break down real news. Just hit that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and stay with us on America's fastest growing cable news channel, Newsmax TV.